The following program is being presented through the facilities of the Public Access Television Corporation. The views and opinions expressed on the program are those of the producers and/or those of the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Public Access Television Corporation.
The 1950s and 1960s were great decades for the sport of baseball, especially for the New York Yankees. They were a dynasty, and to be a part of that dynasty was every baseball player's fantasy. I have with me today a man who not only lived out his dream to play for the New York Yankees, but became one of the all-time greats. This left-handed pitcher spent 16 years with the New York Yankees and helped them to 11 World Series appearances, of which they won 7. However, in 1967, the Yankees would lose him when he announced his retirement from baseball. He has received many awards and honors for his excellence in pitching, the highest being his induction to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1974. He has appeared in 6 All-Star games and broke Babe Ruth's all-time record for World Series most consecutive innings pitched scoreless with 32. He also received the Babe Ruth Award for Outstanding Player in a World Series in 1961. That same year, he received the Cy Young Award. He joins us today, this Hall of Famer, to share with us some of his experiences in baseball and his past memories. I'd like to welcome Mr. Whitey Ford.
Thank you, Mark.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Your career has been an extraordinary one, filled with accomplishments and awards and everything else. How did you get started in baseball? I mean, did you know you had this talent?
No, I grew up in Astoria, Long Island, which is down by the Triborough Bridge, if you know Long Island. And I, as a kid, about 8 years old, we would play stickball and roller hockey, and I just played all kinds of sports. And we had we finally got our uniforms when we were about 14 years old. Some local tavern put up the money and bought us our first uniforms, and we were called the 34th Avenue Boys because that was the name of the tavern. And in 1946, when I was 17, we actually during high school I played first base. I went to Manhattan High School of Aviation. I was a first baseman, and I went for a tryout at Yankee Stadium, and they found out I really wasn't a good enough hitter to be a first baseman. So I started pitching with the Sandlot team after I got out of high school, and we were fortunate enough in 1946 to win the New York City Sandlot Championship. And the final game was played in the old Polo Grounds, which a lot of young people don't remember, but there used to be a great rivalry here in New York with the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants and the Yankees. But we played our final game up there, and we won 1-0, and there was 6 or 7 scouts up there, and one of the scouts happened to be with the Yankees, and that's how I got my start. The Yankees signed me after that game, and that's when I went away to the minor leagues.
When starting out, you're a rookie there, and you're surrounded by these all-time greats. Your first season there, Joe DiMaggio was there. Did you feel intimidated at all by their presence or any pressure on you as a rookie to live up to their expectations?
Well, I'll tell you, Mark, people ask me what was my greatest thrill in baseball, and after spending 3.5 years in the minor leagues, I got called up with the Yankees in this July, just about this time of the year in 1950. And when I went out on the mound to pitch my first game in Yankee Stadium against the Philadelphia Athletics, sometimes you take the ball, you turn around and rub it up, and I was looking out to center field, and I'm saying, boy, there's Joe DiMaggio out there, who, I've idolized since I was like 8 or 9 years old, and now all of a sudden he's playing center field for me. And to me, that was probably the biggest thrill I ever had, to have a guy like Joe DiMaggio playing center field for me.
Did you feel any pressure by his presence out there? Like, did you want to live up to his expectations of you?
Yeah. In a way, I did, Actually, I didn't win my first game. I think I left. It was 2-2, and the score was 2-2 in the 7th or 8th inning. So I really didn't get a decision the first game I pitched. But I was so awed by him playing. But then, a few days later, now I've been with the club another, a week, and then I got my second start, and I just then felt like I was part of the team.
Right.
Yeah.
Soon, you were to meet and become closest friends to both Mickey Mantle and Billy Martin. And you refer to Mantle in your book, Slick, the brother you never had. Can you give some insight as to the relationship between you and Mickey as the two of you?
Yeah, well, see, in '50 when I came up to the Yankees, I roomed with Billy Martin.
Right.
And then I went in the service for 2 years, and when I came out, Mickey Mantle was then with the team. He joined him in 1951 when I was in the Army. And as soon as I got back in '53, Billy Martin was also in the Army for a while. And we just hit it off, the three of us. It was unusual. Billy Martin was from Oakland, California. Mickey was from a little town, Commerce, Oklahoma.
Right.
And, I was born in New York City and, grew up here on Long Island. And it was an unusual relationship, but until we lost Billy a few years ago, I mean, we were the close buddies for 43 years now, and I don't know why Mickey and I hit it off so well. I just liked the kind of person he was. He was a very honest, humble, country type of guy, and he learned the big city real quick, though. In a couple of years,
right.
He was showing me places in New York I had never been.
The three of you were pals and hung out together and had a lot of fun, I'm sure. What was your most memorable experience as a trio?
Well, I think in May of '57 was Billy's birthday, and Mickey and I decided to have a party for him at the Copacabana in New York.
Right.
And we invited the wives who came with us. There was like 5 or 6 couples, Hank Bauer and Gil McDougall and Billy and Mickey and I and our wives, and we got in a little ruckus there at the Copacabana. Little fisticuffs broke out, and I think that was the most memorable moment because we got fined $2,000, and in 1957 my salary was only about, say, $25,000.
Right.
So I mean, I got fined like 1/12 of my salary. We all did.
Right.
I said to and now I said, boy, these guys making $4 or $5 million. If they ever find them 1/12 of their salary,
right.
You're talking about a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
But that probably was the most memorable of anything. It's still talked about, and it happened in 1957.
Right.
Yeah.
Mickey Mantle refers to his favorite summer as 1956. What was yours?
I guess probably 1961. We had such a great team, and it was memorable to me. I mean, I had a real fine year. I was 25-4, and we won the World Series. But I think what made it really great was Roger Maris had 61 home runs
right.
that year, and Mickey Mantle had 54 home runs. And actually, he probably would have been right up there close to Roger, except he missed the last 2 weeks of the season. He got an injury. He got an infection in his side here, and so he didn't play the last 2 weeks. But it was such a great year. As good a year as I was having, I was almost ignored in the dressing room after a game
right.
because there'd be 100 sports writers from all over the country wanting to talk to Roger Maris. And how he put up with it, I don't know, because some of these guys really weren't, these writers really weren't great baseball fans, and he got asked a lot of silly questions. But Roger held up really well under the pressure, and he really showed me something. Roger was really liked by his teammates, and for some reason the New York press didn't treat him as well as they should have.
Right.
And a lot of fans thought Roger was a little different, but I think the way to judge a guy is by how his teammates like him, and Roger was really well liked by the guys on the Yankees.
I'm sure by you.
Very much, yeah.
Who was the greatest baseball player that you ever saw in your time in the majors?
I think the guy we were just talking about, Joe DiMaggio. I'm more prejudiced to Mickey Mantle because he's probably my closest friend. But the greatest hitter I've ever seen was Ted Williams. Not against me, but I mean the best hitter I ever saw, I thought, was Ted Williams. I'd have to say probably Joe DiMaggio, and was the greatest all-around ball player as far as base running and hitting and home runs and fielding. I think DiMaggio would be my guy.
Today, there are practical jokers in the dugouts at all times, putting gum under their shoes and tying matches to it, and, hot foots, they call those. What kind of practical jokes, or who was the biggest practical joker when you were playing?
Well, it wasn't when I was playing, but later on I coached the Yankees. I was pitching coach, and I think Sparky Lau was about the craziest. Yeah,
What kind of practical jokes did he do? Anyway?
Well, I know we had a big birthday cake for one of the players in 1974. This is when we were playing at Shea Stadium.
Right.
Those 2 years where
Right.
the Yankee Stadium was being refurbished. And I remember Sparky, we had a great big birthday cake in the dressing room after the game for one of the players. And Sparky Lau took all his clothes off, went in the shower, took a shower, and walked back in the room and sat right on top of the cake and just
really?
squashed it. And nobody ever got to eat any of the cake. But Sparky was, and he was typical of hot foots and things
Right,
like that.
Yeah. Superstitions. Did you have any?
Not really, Mark. Probably the only thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't shave the day I was pitching.
That you were pitching?
Yeah, and I don't know if it was a superstition, but between, you're rubbing your face and you have rosin on your hands from the rosin bag, and I think the reason probably I didn't shave was because it would irritate your skin, keep rubbing with that rosin on your fingers. But if I had any superstition, it was not shaving.
The night before a game, was there any tension or nerves, or were you constantly thinking about it the whole night through? Did you get a good night's sleep that night? Or
No, I always
was it
slept
difficult?
well. I really
you
did.
did?
Probably if I got nervous, and it wasn't not only World Series, but it was every game, it was like an hour before the game would start. Like in those days, we played a lot of day games. But say the game started at 1:30. About 12:30, I'd get itchy. I'd be walking around the dressing room. And thank God in those days, the pitches hit. So the day you were pitching, you would take batting practice with the team, and that helped a little to relieve. But actually, after they played the national anthem and you took your 8 warm-up pitches, and
You were into the
you
groove?
pitched to the first batter, and
It went away.
you didn't even worry about the people in the stands or anything. You just concentrated on the game.
Who was the toughest batter that you faced?
Well, there was 2. The toughest left-handed batter, really wore me out, was Nellie Fox. I think Nellie Fox missed getting in the Hall of Fame by a couple of votes years ago, and I still think, I always feel that Nellie Fox and Phil Rizzuto should be in the Hall of Fame. And the toughest right-hander was a fellow. It's a shame they both passed away, but Harvey Keene played with the Detroit Tigers. He later managed the Milwaukee Brewers. Harvey was probably the toughest right-handed hitter for me to get out. They were just spray hitters, hit the ball, line drives over the infield, and they were the 2 toughest hitters for me.
What was your favorite pitch to throw? I know you had a great curveball. Was that the favorite?
No, my success, whatever success I had, was I had actually 4 pitches. I had a fastball, which wasn't that fast. I had a curveball, a slider, which is nothing but a little curve, and a change of pace. And my success was due that I could mix these pitches up and try and outguess the hitter. And probably the more than one pitch, I think control was probably my biggest asset.
Today, most of the coaches are usually calling the game from the dugouts. Who called the game when you were pitching? Was it you called the game, or catcher, who was Yogi at the time? For a couple of years there.
After Yogi and I,
Right.
I pitched a few games and Yogi caught. It got to be like just every day. There was no problem. If I shook Yogi off twice in a game, it was a lot.
Okay.
And then later on, when Elston Howard came, it was the same thing.
Right.
I just had a rapport with my catchers that they knew how I wanted to pitch, and and I knew that what they were thinking, and we just I very seldom shook off the catcher.
Baseball today has changed considerably from the time that you played. There are brushback pitches. There's the salaries and the fights. But let's just talk about the brushback pitches for a second. There's a lot of warnings that are issued to pitchers when they come inside to somebody to move them off the plate a little bit. Was that big in your time? Were there any warnings given out, or that was just standard for?
Batters were a lot better. First of all, you didn't wear helmets in those days.
You didn't wear helmets.
And there was so much more I don't mean knocking guys trying to hit them in the head, but you got to pitch in here every once in a while, inside. And now it looks like if you get in too close, they're coming running out to the mound after the pitcher.
Right.
And it's getting crazy now, and something's got to be done about it. But there was knockdowns, and I would never throw at another hitter to try and hit him unless somebody was throwing at Mantl's knees the inning before or something. Then it's just retaliate. I would never,
Would they go after Mantl's knees, or?
More so than his. I think Mickey had a record of not being hit by a pitch for.
Oh, really?
Probably. But if they did throw, they'd always try until that breaking ball
Yeah,
right
breaking
into
ball
his
right in the
knees and make him jump, especially when he hit left-handed.
Salaries too. They're big now, very big. Back in your time, salaries weren't as high as they are now. Comparable to the way things get more expensive as
Yeah.
you age. But what do you think of the salaries now? The amount of money that these baseball players are making.
Well, a lot of people don't like the idea of guys making $4 or $5 million. I mean,
Right.
there's not that many, but Barry Bonds and Danny Tartabull and
Probably Bonilla.
and Maddox. Some of the
many others.
pitchers are making big money, but I just assume there's 700 baseball players in the big leagues now. I'd rather see the ball players getting the money than the owners. I mean,
Right.
if the players don't get the big salaries, the owners would get it.
Right.
And the owners know how far they can go. The only thing I feel bad is teams like Seattle that don't get that big TV money, or Cincinnati. I don't know how they're going to be able to, Cleveland, how they're going to be able to compete to get these high-priced ball players eventually. I guess the owners are going to have to start sharing the TV money
Yeah.
pretty equally or something.
Right. You didn't bat when you batted. I'm sorry, when you played. The DH rule wasn't in effect.
Right.
Now we have the DH rule. How do you feel about pitchers now not hitting? In the National League they do, the American League they
Yeah.
don't. What do you think about that?
Well, if I was playing now, it would really annoy me that I couldn't hit. I love to.
Couldn't hit, right.
I mean, I was fairly good hitter for a pitcher, but I think it made more interest to the game. Bunting and things like that.
And I'm sure it's nice to be able to try to help out your own cause while you're pitching
Right.
to try to get a hit. So
The only
Yeah.
good thing about the DH is you can be in a game. Years ago, if I was in a game and I'm losing 2-1 in the seventh inning, they might take me out for pinch hitter.
for a pinch hitter.
Now it wouldn't happen. So you got a
Right,
chance to
DH.
stay in the game.
To stay in the game.
And
Pitch
possibly win a few more. But I really like to hit and bunt when I was playing.
Which changes of today appeal to you the most? Out of all the changes that have been made, the DH rule, the salaries, which appeal to you the most, and why?
Probably the salaries is the only thing. I'm really annoyed at the length of baseball games now.
Right.
I mean, I see 2-1, 3-2 games, 3 hours and 5 minutes, and
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, there's a few more minutes spent on commercials between innings,
Oh,
but
yeah.
there's no reason for. They're trying to do it this year, speed up the games, but it's getting crazy where, you have over 3-hour games for
Back then
all
the
those.
games went quick.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I think one of the reasons that the Yankee players like to play behind me was they knew it was going to be a quick game. I mean, whether I got knocked out
Right.
if I pitched a game over 2 hours, I really.
It was a lot.
And I always blamed it on the other pitcher. He was too slow.
was too slow.
But I mean, I got out and I didn't take any time between pitches, and I'd get out to the mound, and there wasn't a bunch of rubbing the ball up every second pitch and throwing over the first 6 or 8 times. That probably annoys me more than anything is the long ball games they have nowadays.
Yeah, they're entirely too long. Okay, what is Whitey Ford doing now?
Well, I was fortunate enough to meet a man by the name of Wayne Heisinger that owns the Florida Marlins,
Right.
and now he's just got a hockey team down there. It's going to be called the Florida Panthers in the NHL, and he lives in Fort Lauderdale, where I live, and he was nice enough to give me some franchises for Blockbuster video stores.
Oh, really?
So that takes up a lot of my time. In fact, we have one in Port Washington and one in Hampton Bays, which we just opened a few weeks ago. But I also work for the Yankees. I go to spring training with them every year and work with the young pitchers for 6 or 7 weeks in Fort Lauderdale,
Right.
which is nice because that's my home. And then I run a baseball fantasy camp for
Right.
older guys. The average age is about 45.
45?
Yeah, we've had a lot of fellows from the Great Neck area have been there. And we have it the first week in November down in Fort Lauderdale, where the Yankees have spring training at Fort
Right,
Lauderdale
Fort
Stadium.
Lauderdale.
And this year, Yogi's going to be there. Phil Rizzuto's going to be there for 2 days and make a guest appearance. And then I have Joe Pepitone's
Joe
coming this
Pepitone.
year. Frank Howard. 3 of the Yankee coaches this year that are with the Yankees are going to be there. Frank Howard, the first base coach, and Cleet Boyer, the third base coach, and Jake Gibbs, the bullpen coach for the Yankees. And I got Catfish Hunter and Ron Guidry coming, so we got a pretty good staff. And
Ron Guidry will be there too, huh?
Ron, yeah, and he and Catfish can still pitch.
And they can?
So yeah, they pitch in the games against the hitters, and it's a camp. You don't have to be a great ball player because these guys just lay the ball in, and I mean everybody seems to hit like 300 or
It's a lot of
400.
fun, huh?
Yeah, and if anybody's interested, they could call Yankee Stadium, or I have a girl by the name of Kathy Korleski runs it in Fort Lee, New Jersey, and if I could give the number,
Yes,
it's a 201 number in New Jersey, and it's 943-0999. Maybe we'll repeat that later.
Yeah, we'll read it later.
Thank you, Mark.
What kind of people does your camp attract? I mean, you have, has anyone famous been there? For maybe former baseball players? I know former baseball players of your time, you know, the Hall of Famers. Anybody famous or anybody that comes back every year to do this over and over again?
Well, we have one fella, Al Abrams from Pennsylvania. He sold his toy company years ago, and he's retired. Al's maybe 55. He has not missed one of our camps. We've had them for 8 years now, and some years we have 2 weeks, and he has never missed a week of any camp we've ever had. Marvin Hamlish, who lived in the Great Neck area, I think he lived in Sands Point a few years ago. He's been one of our campers. But we get doctors, truck drivers, lawyers. We get bartenders. We've had a few bar owners, and we just get a great variety. Probably 2/3 of them are from the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area. And then we've had the oldest man we've had there is a man from Lincoln, Nebraska. He was 77 years old.
Are they good ball players? I mean,
some of them you could see have probably played high school and college ball. I don't remember ever having a guy that played professional ball.
Right.
But some of them can play, and it doesn't really matter if you can play or not. These guys come down and have so much fun. We pay for. All you have to do is bring your glove. The only thing we can't supply you with a glove because it wouldn't be broken in. But you just bring your glove down, and we supply the Yankee uniform with whatever number you want on the back.
How many people attend this camp?
We can handle up to 84 a week. We usually get like 60 come to the camp each week, and we break it up into 6 teams. Like if there were 60, we make 6 teams of 10 guys on a team, and then they'll play 10. Every morning they have instruction if they want to take it. All the coaches will put on a clinic, but then they play a doubleheader every day. They play 1 game in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, so they play 10 games from Monday to Friday.
Right.
And then on Saturday, all the coaches play these 6 teams. We play them 2 or 3 inning games, and we give them 6 outs each inning.
Week, then.
And so they'll actually get to play 11 games. And then it all ends up Saturday night with a big awards dinner, and it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. What do you, as a camp owner, I should say, what do you hope these people will get out of their camp experience?
They just have a lot of fun.
Just have a lot of fun.
One night we have autograph nights, all the coaches are there signing autographs for them. Another night we have a talk session. It's like you and I talking now. They want to hear funny stories. And all the campers, all our coaches seem to have funny stories to tell.
And you have plenty of stories, I'm
That's
sure.
the 2 big nights, is the autograph night and the night when they just ask questions and we're up on the stage answering them. And those seem to be the 2 big nights. And plus, and they have fun playing the games.
And so memories. Now they take home, you were talking about before about a uniform. They get a uniform.
They get a videotape of it's like an hour video of the whole week so they can bring it back and show their families. We give them a Yankee jacket, a bat from Louisville Slugger with their name on it. They get these little bubblegum baseball cards with their picture on. We send them like 100 of those after the camp's over. And there's a lot of little things, but it's really been a lot of fun.
Okay. Getting back to when you were playing, you're pitching and you're 60 feet 6 inches away from the batter. Okay, and then when you're through pitching, you're even closer than that. Now, a lot of balls come back up the middle at you. Who were you most worried about getting hit by?
I just mentioned his name. One of the coaches at the fantasy camp, Frank Howard.
Right.
Frank's like 6'7". When he strides out and hits that ball, he actually hits the ball probably a foot or 2 in front of the plate. And then when you finish up throwing with your follow through, you're only probably 55 feet from
Right.
So, I mean, if Frank ever hit a ball back at me, I think it would have killed me. He was the one guy I feared. In fact, when he was with the Dodgers, we'd play them in Vero Beach, and I would tell him before the game, I said, Frank, I'm going to pitch you inside, fastballs, nice slow curves, pull it. I don't care if you hit it over the palm trees. Don't hit it back at me.
Don't hit it back at me.
But he was probably the one guy I feared hitting a line drive back through the box.
Have you had any close ones that come right by you? That's.
Oh, I've been hit all over. I've been hit in the shoulder. Bob Serve, who used to play with the Yankees, later was with Kansas City. He hit a line drive back. I never saw it, and I felt something hit my ear.
Really?
And Elston Howard told me later the ball went right by my ear. I said, I never saw it. Sometimes there's a bad background behind home plate,
right.
and it was hard to pick up the ball after when a batter would hit it back at you.
You retired from the Yankees, and you went back to coach, to be a pitching coach. Actually, in fact, your last couple of years there, you were a player and a pitching coach.
No, what happened in '64, I was still pitching,
right.
and Yogi asked me to be the pitching coach, besides pitching. That was kind of tough.
Right,
I mean,
what was that like?
It was hard, it really was. But I planned it like if a doubleheader, we had a lot of doubleheaders in those years. I would pitch the second game so that, I could, be fresh to watch. Like Mel Stottlemyre came up, and Jim Bouton was there and Al Downing. And I would, I wanted to be there and, help them as much as I could when they were pitching. But then I had to pitch the second game, so I'd always make sure I pitched the second game. It was kind of hard, but I really enjoyed it. We won the pennant. Yogi was our manager.
Right.
And I never forget we lost in the seventh game to St. Louis in the World Series. And we're flying back from St. Louis, and Yogi came to my seat in the plane, and he said, "How do you enjoy, coaching and pitching?" And I said, "That was all right." He said, "Would you like to do it again next year?" And I said, "Sure." And then 2 days later, I picked up the newspaper, and Yogi was fired.
So you didn't wind up.
That was the last. Then Johnny Keane came, our new manager, with his coaches. So I just went back pitching until the '67 season.
And then after retirement, did you go back to the Yankees?
Then Ralph Houck asked me to come back as a first base coach, and really it was to get my to work with Jim Turner, who was then the pitching coach again.
Right.
And I worked with him because I think they were sort of grooming me to be the pitching coach. So they thought making me first base coach and working with Jim Turner, the pitching coach, who was getting along in years then, and so it worked out fine. But I really didn't like coaching. I mean, I liked coaching, but I just didn't like the 2-week road trips, sitting in hotels all day, and I got out of it then, and I stayed out of baseball except going to spring training, which I think I've done every year since I left the Yankees. I enjoy doing that, but then when the Yankees moved to Shea Stadium in '74, I went back as a pitching coach for Bill Verdon.
Well, you certainly had an outstanding career, and I would like to thank you for joining me today to discuss your experiences about baseball today and in the past. And I wish you a lot of luck with your camp. Now we're going to go over that number one more time. Okay. Just give the phone number.
Well, if the people don't remember the number, they can call Yankee Stadium, get information. But the number in New Jersey is 201-943-0999. I had to think about that. And thank you, Mark. It was great.
It was a privilege to be here with you, and I thank you very much, and good luck with your camp in the future.
Thank you.